After the war, back in the Sol sector, human scientists work feverishly around a machine. This machine is massive, filling up probably a football field squared, or in this case cubed, of devices and different capacitors and things of that nature. The damn thing is hot, really hot, as many of them are screaming about how they need to pump more coolant in to make sure it doesn't overload. Many of the scientists are still freaking out, but they are out of the danger zone, but they still have to cool the machine as fast as they possibly can, or else it has a chance of going critical once more. They worry about this, as if it goes critical under unforeseen circumstances, they cannot control it. Many of the researchers are stripped down out of their uniforms and out of their protective suits as they don't care anymore, as they simply just sweat profusely. Many other personnel run around constantly giving them water, dousing them, and also every once in a while throwing water on the floor. Even ice water in a mop is constantly being used to try and cool the floor itself so it does not melt their shoes. As a few of the military personnel, well dressed, try to walk in the door, they immediately, whoo! Oh man, it's hot in here. Holy jeez. They call out for a single doctor. He rushes over. The doctor, a older man and not in great shape, rushes over to the military men and is breathing heavily due to the heat. Yes, sir. Well, can I help you? This has to be quick. We're kind of busy. Yes, Doc. Are we out of the danger zone? For now, but we have to constantly cool everything off. Do you require more assistance? I think we can handle it, but if... Holy shit. If you can get some more bodies down here, just with something, buckets of dry ice, just leave them open just to cool this place off. We're dying here. You got it, Doc. Without a moment's hesitation, they went back and immediately started getting on their communication devices of different types and started calling for any type of coolant they can find. Anything. Portable AC devices, simple dry ice, coolers full of ice and water, anything so they can cool off the area. Along with this, they pass by a whole bunch of other technicians on the outside of the room, making sure pipes are still functioning normally. They seem to be replacing a few of the hoses as they seem to have ruptured a little bit, trying to pump as much fluid as possible through this device. Boy, this is insane, one of them says. You bet your ass. I never even thought we'd be able to do this, but let alone make sure it doesn't blow up. Well, it just might. Well, let's hope it doesn't. Did you get a hold of your guys? Hold on. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir. We got it handled down here, but we need to pump as much coolant as we can. This thing is way too hot. Yes, sir. Understood. Yes, sir. All right, he says, sending everybody. And I mean everybody. Within less than an hour, the entire floor is being covered with bags of ice. And as they melt down in a matter of about 4 or 5 minutes, as the ground is so hot, they are quickly replaced. Those running in and out with the bags of ice, though they're wearing gloves, immediately are told to strip off as much of the uniform as they can manage because it is so hot in there they cannot stomach it. This dance continues for 6 days. On the 7th day, they're told they can relax as the machine has finally cooled well out of the danger zone, though they will still send details in there to make sure the area is continuously cooled. They don't have to worry about it going critical. Eventually, the doctor is brought to the group of military personnel, and he can finally relax. As they place several glasses of ice water in front of him, the doc looks completely exhausted. Can we handle this another time? He says right before starting to slam down even more water. We need just a debriefing, Doc, so if you would please run everything over so we can check our notes. As you know, our memory devices are not exactly functional the right way. That is to be expected, sir. One moment. He continues to drink a lot of water. Okay. The device itself, as you know, is a quantum flux dual spin focusing into temporal energies. And you can see the result. As you can see, most of your fleet is still mostly intact, I'm sure, after everything that we've been able to establish. Yes, Doctor, that is true. Please continue with your explanation. Well, that's good to hear. So, most of my staff is all right. Most of them are starting to collapse from exhaustion. I do, again, appreciate you bringing as much coolant as possible, ice and otherwise, just to make sure that place is cooled down. Had that thing gone off the rails, we would have been in deep, deep shit. Well, all right, Doctor. So, if you would just give a brief summation of what you exactly did and why everything is so strange now. Why are our memories not fully linking up? I know you gave us a quick 1, 2, 3 explanation, but please lay it out for us so there is absolutely no confusion. All right. Okay. That water. Oh, ice cube in the throat. Okay. All right. In simple terms, the temporal device is able to spread out across the entire sector plus 25% of every sector in every single direction. Though we didn't need to have it this large, using the gravimetric field of the planet as a power source, we could actually send this pulse as far out as we wanted. Well, as far as it could go as far as the planet was concerned. Now, if we were using a larger planet, obviously larger bubble. However, what had happened, as you know, we were immediately supposed to commission this device. We were able to hook it up to the CERN Hadron Collider to help us power it. But unfortunately, you're going to need another one built if you want to run this machine again. The amount of juice we had to run through it is absolutely insane. However, as you can see, since we're still here and still talking, it was a complete and total win. When the pulse went out, the temporal pulse was able to back up everything within the pulse's radius, approximately 381 days. We did not need to back it up that much. However, it was important that we did so, as the battle for this sector did last that long. As you know, the enemy came in. We were not prepared at all. Yes, Doctor, that is true. We was definitely not ready for what they were coming to do for us. Ain't that the truth? And it was amazing how fast they were able to take out our fleet piecemeal. It was just insane. And that is very, very true. As you can see through our records that they were able to take us apart, but as you also know, it was able to see, our scans were able to detect how their ships were operating. Because of that, we knew where to strike, exactly where to strike and when, because they had not understood this device. However, I kind of wish you could have gotten this device ready beforehand before we had lost so many. We are still in the process of doing psychological evaluations of the entire fleet. The entire fleet is, how do you say, fucked up in the head. The extreme psychological torture of knowing that you were killed and then you're alive again in your younger self is something that is beyond measure difficult when you're ill prepared for such a thing. Yeah, if we had more time, we would have actually let everyone know, but then again, that's a leak that I don't think any of you would have agreed with. Of course, all the military members slightly nodded their heads as they wished they could have helped out that. Now, the time-space bubble was able to actually grab all the information of that time because it has more effect on living things than it does of non-living things. The actual recordings were unaffected. This is something that we were not expecting, but we're grateful of. The fact that we can now find out exactly when, where, and how an enemy is going to attack is just a wonderful thing, as you know. Doc, you're starting to trail off, or I know you need some sleep, but please focus your attention. Yes, I'm sorry. The last 6 days of no sleep is I'm running on caffeine and adrenaline at this point. So, to make it very succinct, we changed the past, and there's no other way to say it. Our temporal displacement field changed everything within that bubble back 300 plus days. Because of that, we knew where, when, and how they were going to attack, and we hit them. All right, Doctor. Since you seem to be repeating yourself at this point, we recommend that you go and actually get some sleep. You definitely deserved it. We do not expect you back for 3 days. 3 days, that is enough, yes? All the others nodded. So 3 days. You are on leave. Go sleep, go eat, go sleep again. But the world, the species, thanks you and your people. With that, the doctor simply got up, waved his hand a little bit, and walked out. The human commanders continued to talk about the battle itself. They were able to look at the prior recordings and how badly they got stomped into the ground. The enemy fleet had gone through and taken down the small battle groups that were out there. The patrol ships didn't stand much of a chance, although they were able to dodge most of the enemy fire and get the recordings and send their transmissions back, which was the only thing that allowed such a transformation of time to happen. They continued on. The enemy continued all the way until they hit Martian orbit, and then they were hit with every single ship and orbital device that they had, because they knew if they made it to Earth, the game would almost be over. The command joked a little bit as they watched video of when the alien fleet finally decided to land on the planet. Why they decided not to just glass it was not something they wanted to even think about, as they understood that if a alien species doesn't want another species around, they're just going to annihilate them and said planet. It's just efficient. But they wanted this planet for some reason. They wanted the people alive for some reason. And the thoughts were enough to make them shudder. As they looked in the video, they watched as several of the aliens were quite literally torn apart with bare hands. The civilian population would come at them, and just swinging a shovel even into the exosuits of these aliens would be able to not only dent the helmet, but in some cases kill the alien outright from just the concussion. Yet they checked, and the suits were in fact braced for concussive force. They couldn't understand why. This would take a little bit of looking into, but as they looked at the size and shape of the aliens, they realized that they are very, very thin. Though they seem partially insectoid or reptilian, which won't be verified until later, for some reason they just can't take a hit. With all this information, one thing kept plaguing everybody. We need to be ready for the next one. As they looked over the reports, it was said that the temporal device would be maybe functional in the next 10 to 15 years, no matter how many people they put on it. They would have to quite literally take it apart and rebuild it, not to mention having to build another large collider so they could power this thing. So they had to prepare for the next one. They knew a massive buildup of military tech would be needed, just to give the scientists more time to do what they do. They looked also at a few other reports that said the time machine was completely burned out and wouldn't be able to be used again. Or could it? The idea did strike a few of them, and worried that a few people with nefarious ideas might want to use this for their own purposes, usually just to make money and control, which they conflate as the same thing, and it's not. They worried about this. But for right now, They simply had to be ready for the next confrontation, as now, instead of being an almost annihilated species, they're winning the war.